grind. I got to go. And now you're telling me that I need to be still. There was actually a time in our business I wasn't even allowed to talk to the employees.
Don't even get me started on the tiny homes. I must have watched 10,000 of those videos over the years.
Ruffle my feathers. Do people say no? Ruffle my feathers.
Yeah.
They don't ruffle my...
I don't think they say it anymore. I think grandma used to say it.
I gave myself permission to not do it right because there was a lot of days that I didn't get it right.
That's such a common trap as business owners. I think we start a business to give us freedom, and then real quickly we find out what we just did to ourselves.
But then you get a diagnosis and all of a sudden everything kind of just quiets.
Hey, welcome back to the Balanced Business Podcast. Today, we're going to be joined by two friends and highly successful cleaning business owners that I know, Eric and Debbie Emms. They run Rise and Shine Cleaning in Portland, Oregon, and Rise and Shine is a 7-figure family-run business that's been serving the Portland area since the early 2010s. In addition to their cleaning company, Eric and Debbie are also coaches for the Cleaning Business Fundamentals program run by industry legend Debbie Sardone. In today's episode, we're going to be walking Eric and Debbie through their health journey, through their business journey with Rise and Shine, and in particular, how they navigated a very difficult cancer diagnosis and the subsequent healing journey that they went on as a couple. A lot of this is very high-level stuff on how you can balance your business and your health without having to sacrifice either those or your family. So I'm really excited to talk to them about that today. Eric and Debbie, welcome so much to the show.
Thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be on your podcast.
It's good to be here. It's exciting. I always love to sit down and chat with you, Chris.
It's a real honor. It really is. So I was thinking about how to start this. It's a tough podcast to start because we're covering a couple big different areas of life. And I thought, we're all business owners here. So it's probably pretty easy for us to start in business, but if we start there, we might just talk about business the whole time. So I'm thinking maybe we'll start with the health journey first, if that's okay, and then maybe transition into the business and how you guys handle those things together. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. I think this first question might be a little bit more aimed towards Debbie, and then Eric will have of course, one for you too. Debbie, I was curious, when the diagnosis for Eric's cancer came through, that's a pretty big event to have happen in your life with your partner. You were already both, as far as I understand it, if I've got the timeline correct here, you were already running Rise and Shine when that happened.
Yeah.
Could you tell me how you started to process and deal with that when this diagnosis came through, and how you and Eric may have changed anything that you were doing while you were running Rise and Shine? What was that like when that came through?
Wow. It was, it felt surreal. Nobody's ever expecting a diagnosis, especially we're young. Right? We're in our 40s, and that wasn't something that that wasn't part of our plan. It wasn't on our agenda. It puts in perspective what your true purpose in life is. And we really had a lot of, our business wasn't running remotely. And so there was a lot that we still needed to work on and lots to do, but then you get a diagnosis and all of a sudden everything kind of just quiets. And you really have to choose what really is important. And his health was a priority. Our family was a priority. And it really it changed my mindset, right? Every day there was another little fire to put out with the business, and it just seemed so big. But in that moment, nothing really seemed big anymore, and nor did it seem super important. So it really was just about focusing on each day, what we were going to do first to put a team together to help my husband, to bring our family closer because they were scared, right? There's a lot of uncertainty now. And so it really was just about putting the steps in place for what the plan was for Eric, what our plan was going to be for Rise and Shine. It really came down to putting all the things that we did in Rise and Shine down on paper. And everything that Eric was doing, we really needed to take that piece away from him. So the majority of his day was just focused on healing.
Well, right. We were wearing all the hats then and spinning all the plates. And so it was daunting, right? Because we didn't, like Debbie said, we weren't running it remotely then, and we didn't have an admin team then. It was us. I don't know, we were probably doing 750 in revenues, somewhere around there. I don't know. But I mean, it was, a fairly large business, and it was just us. And so it was scary.
Right. And again, we have 6 children. So that became, they also became the focus. We have such great kids, and really, truly, everybody came together. We all supported each other, and we adapted very quickly. We pivoted very quickly, and truly, we just kept moving forward. We wouldn't allow any type of fear or negativity around us, because our focus was healing. And we know that healing happens when you're in a space of love and light. And so we really had to work on just being still, right? Keeping our eyes looking up and knowing that our faith was going to keep us moving forward. And we really just had to let go and trust that if we kept our focus on what's most important, our family, healing Eric, we slowly started to put the pieces together for Rise and Shine. And so that really required us to pick everything apart.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to tune out the noise. You have to learn to tune out. There's a lot of noise, right? And especially as entrepreneurs, we're very busy, and it's go, 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 do, do, do. And a lot of times there's a lot of chaos that goes along with that. And we really had to learn first within ourselves to silence the noise. And like Debbie said, focus on what matters. But then as we scaled and grew and built an admin team, we had to build kind of systems to shield ourselves from the noise and the chaos and any drama, right?
It's interesting when you say that. It's a horrific thing to happen, and yet it felt like it forced so many positive changes for your business and your life. It gave you an essentialist mindset where you could really see these are the only things that matter. Everything else needs to go, or it needs to be taken care of by someone else.
For sure. And, it's such a weird situation to be in, because cancer, it's such a scary word. Just saying it out loud, people, it elicits a response, right? Because everyone's had an experience with it. And for most, it's scary. I don't want to say in any way that cancer was a blessing, but I can tell you that the past 3 years of our lives have been really the most beautiful time period in our life. And coincidentally, there are no coincidences, it's been the biggest period of growth in our business.
And yet you've spent, would it be fair to say you've spent less time in the business now than you used to?
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Good. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
We have so many topics to touch on here, but I think a big one might be, if you're comfortable sharing it, Eric, would you be able to share some of the journey, both emotional, psychological, perhaps physical, that you went through on your cancer healing journey? Were there any lifestyle? I know we're talking about business changes and getting an admin team and changing your systems, but were there any big lifestyle changes on a day-to-day basis, perhaps, that you and Debbie implemented into your life that had a big difference that maybe the old Eric per se would not have done?
Yes.
Pretty much. My old life is completely unrecognizable to me. At one point before all this started, I was a total gym rat, steakhouse guy, might have been known to have a scotch or a bourbon at that steakhouse. By no means like a drinker, but we would have some fun. We changed everything. We changed our diet, our nutrition, completely went to a plant-based whole food nutrition program, which was challenging, right? That's a whole new thing. And if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
And so that was different. Just your mindset and how you view the world, and the lens through which you look at the world has to change, and who you allow in your circle changes. Those are just kind of the bigger picture things, right? On a day-to-day basis, gosh, that whole first year, I didn't really work at all. I was in some sort of treatment daily for the majority of the day. And we chose a non-traditional healing path, right? There was no surgery, no radiation, no medications. And so for me, on a daily basis, I was in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I was doing high dose IVs, and those are 3-hour bags that you're just sitting there for 3 hours. And my entire days were like this for over a year. So there's a few things that go along with that, right? One is the entrepreneurial mindset is grind, grind, grind. I got to go. I got to go. And now you're telling me that I need to be still, just be, and remove stress and go through all these treatments and not be going and doing. And that was there were times, I mean, we would talk about it all the time. What do I do? What am I doing? And it was a struggle at first. It was so abnormal and so out of character. You know, my entire life, I've always been just a high level achiever, hardest worker in the room type guy, bring your lunch pail and go to work. And now I'm supposed to just chill and relax. And so there's some emotional things that go along with that. You feel like you're not carrying your weight. It was a little bit of a struggle.
It's interesting hearing how uncomfortable you were with relaxing. Do you feel like you can relax a little bit more now?
Oh man, I'm all about it. I'm all about it.
Very good at it now.
But it's healing, right? I've never felt better.
We get so used to, we feel like we have to be busy and constantly doing, and we really have to take time and just be still. But we're not, that's not our culture. It's just go, go, go. And so now we're being told that in order to heal, it's mind, body, spirit, and it's going to require all these different things that you're going to have to now change. And it definitely was foreign to us. And it took us a minute to figure out how to be still and be mindful and to really shift our mindset and focus on right now and what truly is important and get rid of all of the outside noise. Didn't come easy to us at all. Took us a bit.
And there's almost, I guess I'd go as far as to say there was a little at the beginning, a little bit of guilt, maybe a little bit of shame, right? I mean, the circles we travel in are grow, 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 get it, right? And don't get me wrong, there's value in that. And I still have a little bit of that left in me. But what's interesting is once you learn this stuff and once this became habit and actually our lifestyle, and then you realize, okay, well, I still want to scale this business. Once you learn to kind of reverse engineer your life and reverse engineer your time and your business goals, now when we make our goals for the year for Rise and Shine, it starts with us. What do we want? How do I want to live my life on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, quarterly basis? And then let's build our business around that.
Yeah.
Well, so important.
What a blessing, right? Because up until that point, it had been Rise and Shine just owned us and everything else came in second, third, fourth. Right. And now oh man, it's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah, very sure.
I feel like you're unintentionally giving my students the same lesson that I give them. One of the ones I tell students often is you have to make your business work for you and your partner. It can't just work for you. If your business goals own you, that isn't going to work for the rest of your life. It's not going to work for your health. It's not going to work for your family or your relationships. So you have to have a balance between these. And Debbie, for you, when you were managing Rise and Shine during that year, Eric was mostly unavailable. I think it's fair to say you were probably pretty full throttle 24/7 all the time.
I felt a bit overwhelmed.
Yeah, just a little bit. How did you personally manage that during such a challenging time? Like, I don't know if I could do it without the support of my team or my family. Doing that almost by yourself is such an incredibly challenging thing. Were there any strategies that you implemented, or was it kind of like a, skate while the fire is going type of situation where you...
I like that. I think there was some days I did have that. I really learned how to give myself grace. Every day was something a little bit different. I really did try to focus on each day. If I looked at the big picture, it make me want to run screaming. It felt a lot at the beginning. And I really had to compartmentalize everything from the children to Eric's health to how I can best show up and be my very best for my family, to be also there for my team. And I really just focused on certain hours of every day I would work on it. I know that really seems simplistic, but that's how I got through the very first few months. I could only do so much. And then I had to just kind of walk away from that compartment, and then I would move to the next. And I remember just always being like, Debbie, you did your best. tomorrow will be better, but today you gave your very all. And I gave myself permission to not do it right, because there was a lot of days that I didn't get it right. And we did have a way of starting our morning, so we were connected. And I really felt like when you start your day with intention, when you start your day with gratitude, it really doesn't make the rest of your day so big. Because again, you focus on really what matters. And I really had an amazing team. It was just all about making sure that they had the structure that they needed. And every day I would work on something that I did, what Eric did, that we would put down on papers, that we would create. It was always about the systems, but I didn't work on it all day long. And we did have some fires, but again, it's what I did my very best with the hand that we were dealt. And it got easier. Didn't stay that way, but I always stayed looking up, right? Knowing that truly all that mattered was my family, my husband, and everything else didn't seem so big. And when we would lose a client or lose a tech, I was okay with that. It's okay, because I know that it was always going to work out, right? I just kept each day, just worked on the tasks, and I just one foot in front of the other.
She's being humble. She, first of all, would make sure that I had 64 ounces of fresh pressed juice every single day of my life. And you have to keep in mind that, like I said earlier, we were spinning all of the plates. And so in this process, we started building an admin team, which is something at the time completely foreign to us, right? And you took charge of that, yes, being very humble.
I had not a similar health circumstance, but a similar experience in business a few years ago. I tried to do the whole digital nomad thing. This was when I just started it, and I didn't know how to do it yet. I went to Greece, which sounded great.
It does sound great, actually.
It sounds it. The second trip will be fun, I think. The first trip, not so fun. But I thought a first world country, you could drink the tap water safely. I found out you could not, which was interesting experience. But I had pretty much everything go wrong in my life at that time, personally and professionally. I want to just zone in on what you said, Debbie, because I think it's the most important part. I also tried to focus on systems, on simplicity, on doing one thing at a time. And that's all important. But I think the most important part you said was giving yourself some grace there. And I would extend that to forgiveness too. When everything is happening at the same time, you really can't expect perfection. I think you have to go in with a strong will and do what you can do, but actually go out at the end of the day and be proud of that and know that.
For sure. Thank you. I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And I really feel that, 3 years forward now from your diagnosis, I feel like we're living our best life. I don't know why stuff happens to people and why, the diagnosis, but it did happen, and it forced us to completely reinvent our life. And I freaking love our life. I love the closeness of our family. I love our relationship. I love our relationship with God. That wasn't in place when this all happened. And I'm grateful that we have this beautiful life now. And unless things happened the way that they happened, I don't think we would have been forced to change anything. We were comfortable kind of living in the suck, and we weren't forced to change anything. But when you are forced to change something, I'm listening now.
Well, I think we didn't know. You don't know you're in the suck, right? We didn't know at the time. We thought our life, if you think back, we thought everything was pretty great back then. But in retrospect, when you look back, the blessings are countless. I mean, just to hear her say that she could give herself grace, it's a very common thing for entrepreneurs, especially. We're so hard on ourselves. We have the bar is so high of ourselves, and the expectation is so high, and it's so easy to let the negative self-talk and the doubt and the beating yourself up. And to be able to learn to overcome that is priceless.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's a big one. As you get further in the journey, and I'm sure you find this both to be true as well, the mindset, the psychology matters much more than the numbers on the sheet. Those are always important, but what those numbers are doing to you in your life are what are really important, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is sort of a question for both of you. You're both parents. of 6 kids. That's a lot of kids. And you have a lot of business too. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, kind of at a big picture level, we've spoken a little bit about the importance of systems for you both. How do you balance your business, your health, and your family? It seems to me there's so much going on, it can be quite a daunting task. I don't have kids yet. We will in the near future. That might be a separate video. How do you balance those 3 areas and make sure that they're being attended to and you're not having to sacrifice any one of them?
I'm going to let you go first on that one.
Okay. Well, to be fair, now we're down to, we only have 2 left in the house. So they're getting older. But so when this first started, Kai was 21, right? Twins were 20. So at the time we had 3 in the house and some young 20s. So a wide spectrum of responses and how they all adapted and responded. But there was a time when they were younger and we were running Rise and Shine and they were all doing sports and all the things. And it really just, I hate to beat a dead horse, but it comes back to systems, and we've always had systems with them too. I mean, we're outnumbered vastly, right? And so, thankfully, that's just something that kind of I gravitate towards naturally is, okay, how are we this is the goal. This is what we want to do. How are we going to chunk that out to make sure that everything works out the way it's supposed to? And we've always done a good job, I think, maybe other than when we first started Rise and Shine, but I think we've always done a good job of putting them first. They come first, then usually was Rise and Shine, and then would come us, I think, probably at the beginning. We had that really backwards. But yeah, it all just comes down to systems and role clarity, right? This is what you're going to do. This is what I'm going to do. And it all works out.
And we had the energy then. For sure. I don't know if we'd have it now, but we had the energy then. And that's just what we did, right? We had 6 kids. They were all into sports, and we just ran after them. And, thank goodness they were in school all day. So that was our break. But it was our weekends were about them. The evenings were about them. And so our business was 9 to 5, no nights, no weekends, because it was family time.
That's good. You made it sacred time. I like that.
Yeah.
It took us a bit. I'd say it took us 4 years to learn that, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it took us until we joined CBF to learn that.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I still coached baseball and still did all the things, but we would get home from baseball and I would work till 10 or 11. That's not the best thing for a loving relationship, right? But we didn't know. We were just trying to spin all the plates and wear all the hats, and we didn't know what we were doing, and so work harder, right?
That's such a common trap as business owners. I think we start a business to give us freedom, and then real quickly we find out what we just did to ourselves. So
for sure. Well, I think that when you have your own business, that's your baby, right? And so you're less willing to want to hand it off to somebody. And I really have learned that finding the right who's is everything. But when we started Rise and Shine, we didn't even know that there was who's that could actually run it better than probably we can. And but I think that at the beginning, when you start your own business, you don't want to share it with anybody because nobody really can do it quite like you. But I have since let that go. My ego is no longer part of this.
Right.
I'll be honest, that's one problem I didn't have. As soon as I could get someone, I was like, you take it. But
yeah, that's good that you learned quickly. It took us a little bit to learn that.
But that's how we are now, for sure.
Yeah.
No question.
And absolutely find the right who. I don't have any problems handing anything over.
Well, let me ask you a related question then. So one of the things I try and do, and I'm not successful at this much of the time, but there are certain principles in my life that I really value highly and that I try and implement into my business and my interactions with my teams. I'm curious if there's a set of perhaps key values or principles that you both guide your lives at a high level that you try and implement into your businesses. Like it could be integrity or honesty or balance. Is there a certain set of values that really speak to everything that you do?
I know that, running a business remotely, my challenge has always been, how do you create culture if you're running this remotely? And I really try to just create a culture of love. My employees, I love our team, right? It's about respect, it's integrity, but truly what I feel is important and maybe I think is missed by a lot of companies, creating a culture of love. And that's something that I can't just do on my own, that I foster the idea of a culture of love with my entire team, and I see them create that within each other as well. And so for me, that's not how I was at the beginning.
No.
With Rise and Shine. And the more that I understand that life is about love, and that's how I lead my life, that's how we lead our life, that's how I lead Rise and Shine. It comes from a place of love. There's really nothing that could ruffle my feathers. Do people say that? Ruffle my feathers.
Yeah.
They don't ruffle my.
I don't think they say it anymore. I think grandma used to say it.
Nobody can ruffle my feathers. I live in a place, in a state of joy, and I really realize that nobody can knock me off this path. Absolutely nobody. And so I roll with it, right? Whatever happens in our personal life, our family, our business, I just roll with it. It is what it is. And when you receive things with love and you give back with love and you just stay in that state of joy, can't really go wrong.
But that didn't happen by accident. And I think that was part of this process and this journey too, is like she said, it wasn't always that way. And at one point, I think we tended to look at it more as labor, and we need labor, right? And throughout this process, we've learned that we need to hire based on our core values. And so really the two deciding factors for us, if you're going to be on our team, is you have to have excellent verifiable work history, but we're hiring for character and alignment with our core values. And when you start there, the team you build is just so much better, and I think fits into your vision of light and love, right? Because that's who you're bringing on. And we'll teach you to clean, we'll teach you the other stuff. And we used to, at some point back in the days, we got it backwards. We wanted you to had to be a great cleaner, and you had to have a heartbeat, and you had to be able to start tomorrow.
Yes.
And that's still how 95% of companies are.
Right. We try to, we're a family run business, right? And so it's got to connect to how we are as in our family, and the same thing with Rise and Shine. It's connected.
And I'm interested. What's fascinating to me is all of that's her department. There was actually a time in our business I wasn't even allowed to talk to the employees. Yeah. I was the Wizard of Oz, man. I was behind the curtain. No one could see me or talk to me. And if I'm being honest, I prefer it that way. But I'm fascinated by the whole process because she's done an amazing job of building culture remotely. And it started, I think, by learning to hire with our core values. But as you scale and you start to learn about personality profiles and disc profiles and things along those natures, when you're running remotely, you're looking for a different type of person that isn't necessarily looking for a team environment, isn't necessarily looking for a rah, we're going to have coffee in the morning and donuts in the office, right? That's a certain character personality profile that suits that. And we're looking for a totally different person now. And once you learn that, I think it's really helped our culture a lot.
I just want to give you guys a little more credit there. Most businesses, when they reach the low to mid 7 figures, they become much more corporate. They have different departments. They have all these different things. And so I think there's a certain amount of culture that might be lost. But with Rise and Shine, you guys are, it's fair to say, a fairly large residential cleaning company now, and yet you've kept the family business part of it central. So I just want to honor that because I think it's very cool to see that you guys can make it work at such a bigger statewide scale. I think that's incredible.
Thank you. That's, and like I said, that's all Debbie's department. And that's been one of our goals from the beginning is how, our tagline is your neighborhood cleaning company. And we wanted to keep that feel. So how do we scale this, but try to keep that feel as much as possible, but at the same time with us being removed as much as possible? I'm tip my hat to you right now. I mean, just what? Because she has the ideas of, hey, this is what I want to do. This is how we're going to chop this out. And then I have to get it thrown on my desk, and then I have to create the system for it.
Yes.
But yeah, she's done a great job at it.
Very cool. Well, I kind of I kind of feel compelled to ask this then. So we've talked about your health and your business journey a little bit. We've talked about some of the principles that guide you. But Rise and Shine is already in such an incredible stage of growth. So I'm kind of curious about what might be next for it. Do you guys have a goal for Rise and Shine that's next, or some bigger meaning for Rise and Shine in your life that you're working towards with it? What is kind of the long-term aspiration for it now that you've got it to such a wonderful stage?
You want me to?
Yeah, I'd like you to take this one.
Do you want me to be honest?
Well, I think now you kind of have to be.
So this is, it almost feels like you're not supposed to say this. We have a number that we want that we're not too far off of, that we would like to just hover at and be around that number. We've kicked this around a lot, and we've talked through multiple locations or expansion or franchising or all the things, right? And the truth is, when we reverse engineer our lives and what do we want to look like, we like where we're at, and maybe just slightly bigger, but not that much bigger, and just letting it do its thing. And we want to really hone in on profitability a little bit more. I think there's some work we can do there. Focus on giving back to our community a little bit more. But other than that, we like where it's at.
Yeah.
I'm completely with you both on that. It's the same in my cleaning business. Like, everyone is very grow all the time, and that's amazing. But at a certain stage, it will take so much from you if you continue to grow it, that maybe it's okay leaving it where it's at and focusing on other things.
Exactly.
Well, right. And that's one of the things we've learned is that, look, we love Rise and Shine, and we love what we've built, and we love this business. But at this stage of it, and this almost seems like a dirty word really, but at this stage of it, it's almost more of an investment, right? And so I'm going to let it do its thing, and we have expectations of what we expect out of it, but it's not our purpose, right? Building and growing this cleaning company isn't our purpose, I don't think. I think it's become very clear that Debbie's purpose is to educate and empower people to heal their own bodies or journeys through using nutrition as medicine. And that's kind of her purpose. And I'm really digging, helping other people build their business of their dreams with Debbie Sardone and CBF, digging that. And we've got kind of lofty goals to move out of state and build a farm. And so
I'm a city girl, so this is kind of a big deal.
That'll be a journey in itself. For sure. But right, we have other things we want to do. And if, again, we come back to, look, if I'm growing a $3, $4, $5 million maid service with multiple locations, I'm not focusing then on these other things that I feel maybe are more my purpose.
That is so many of the thoughts that I have echoed perfectly. I'm struggling to even ask the next couple questions because you're answering them for me. One of them was going to be the bigger picture in your life, but you just explained that perfectly. This is one of the things that I struggled with a little bit too early on as a business owner, is you achieve a certain level that you're happy with, and suddenly this big goal is reached, right? And then you kind of get stuck, and you're not sure why you're stuck, but later on in hindsight, you find out the reason you were stuck is because you became aimless. You achieved this goal, and then there wasn't something beyond just a number goal, right? So it's good to see that you guys have these other goals in your life that are really propelling you towards them. I think a big transition from a high-powered cleaning business to a farm is a huge one, but a very cool one. So,
right, for sure.
Is it okay if I ask a question on that?
Yeah,
sure.
What would it be? Is there a specific type of farm that it would be? Would it be like a regenerative agriculture type farm? Is there a thing that you're going for with the farm that ties in with your life? Is it a shared aspect you guys are working on?
I think to start, we just want to get out in the country a bit, and we want to be, I don't want to say recluse, and I don't want to say, what is it when you're way out in the sticks, you have no power? What do they call that?
Oh, no,
not that.
That's not us.
She's from OC. So this is we're going to probably have to create a new business just on watch this shit show. But at the start, we don't know what we don't know, but at the start, we know we want to be self-sustainable, meaning we grow our own food and, right, we call it back to Eden. I want to get as close to the original Garden of Eden as I can get. And I got to figure out how to do that because I'm not from OC, but I don't live in the country. So we're going to learn something new, right?
That's very cool. I think it'd be a very cool project. That
For sure.
set of skills that are totally different, but equally important business.
Well, and then, so the next stage of that is once we figure out how to fumble along is we want to try to figure out how to monetize parts of that, right? Whether that's just on a smaller scale, whether that's through, local farmers markets or wholesaling Christmas trees or whatever it is. If I have 20 acres, I'm going to monetize some of it. You can bet on that.
Right.
Building your own empire literally from the ground up. I like that.
For sure. For sure.
Very cool.
And depending on how much land, like I still have thoughts of a retreat or tiny homes or having all of our kids live on our land with my grandbaby. So you just never know.
Don't even get me started on the tiny homes. I must have watched 10,000 of those videos over the years.
For sure. Is that something you're interested in?
There is a certain interest to it. I don't know how viable it is for our path, for our trajectory the next few years. But I really love that compact, minimalist type aesthetic. Everything about it is just encapsulates so many good things into it. So
100%, I agree. Yeah.
Have you ever stayed in one?
A couple, yeah. They're
Cool.
So tiny houses are very different in Europe and Japan than they are in the US too. They're already tiny here. So
So it's just a house.
but just a house, right? Yeah. But I like it a lot. Yeah. So I do have a couple final questions, kind of a broad picture question. As two cleaning business owners and coaches now, I'm very curious to get your perspective on how the industry is evolving. So I think it's fair to say the past 10 years, the cleaning industry has seen an incredible amount of change, from booking softwares to new lead systems to the way you hire cleaners. Everything we do is different than a cleaning business 10 or 15 years ago might have done something. So I'd be really curious to get your perspectives on what any emerging trends or developments are in the cleaning industry that you're paying attention to and that you might advise others to pay attention to.
When we first decided that we were going to do this remotely, I don't think that there was many cleaning companies in our circle that were doing that as well. And so, but now I'm starting to see more remote running companies. I'm starting to hear more that they're hiring VAs. They're doing away with their bougie offices so that they have that remote working from home. And that wasn't like that a few years ago. At least it wasn't in my small circle. But now I'm starting to really see that push. And now there's more conversation on creating culture remotely. And now I have people to support me and give me ideas. But that wasn't like that a few years ago. So for me, that's something that is changed in my world.
I would agree with that. I think there's a trend in marketing, I think, is changing a lot in interesting ways. I think AI plays a role in that. The whole pay per lead model, right, is getting very, very expensive.
Yeah.
And so I'm fascinated by it. I think it's interesting because there's two ways to look at it. Is you can either spend the most money, right, which leaves kind of the big dogs, the corporate companies and the franchises, and they're going to try to outspend everybody. And you're seeing even some private investment firms trying to kind of get into this space too, right? And they're going to outspend everybody. That's what they think. But then a lot of other people are getting more towards back to what you might call traditional boots on the ground, right? With door hanger type stuff, building relationships with other contractors and, kind of marketing each other and just more relationship marketing. And I'm seeing, at least where we are using those things, a much higher return on investment, referral marketing. So I think kind of getting back to the basics, right? Everybody wants to get caught up in the shiny new thing. And like you said, gosh, there's so many softwares out there and a lot of them, they're super cool. I mean, I want them too.
Yeah.
And we have probably more than we need of those even. But when you start to scale and look at profitability, do you really need all that stuff? When you look at if you track your marketing, it seems to me right now anyway, the old school stuff is working the best. Email marketing, text marketing, relationship marketing, referrals, those are offering the biggest return on investments. And so I just think that's such an interesting dynamic that it's going back that way.
That's a really good point. And one thing I find with a lot of owners that I talk to is they're spending so much on paid marketing that they never actually become profitable as a business, whether that's because they can't retain those clients after the first clean or whatever. I'm finding that you can make that work very well, and it's a great growth lever to pull. But if paid marketing is the only lever that you're pulling to grow, I think you're going to struggle in the long term to build a sustainable business. It's almost, it's not an addiction per se, but I think it's the easiest option people take. And because it's the easiest option, maybe they're less inclined to pursue it aggressively. But I find that companies that are built on perhaps referral marketing or older school methods, they may grow a little slower perhaps, but they're far more sustainable. They tend to have higher profit margins, which is obviously one of the big things to care about. But I also find that the customers seem to last longer too. The average life of a customer account, for whatever reason, seems to be much higher with organic methods than with paid methods. I wonder if you've seen a similar thing. This is a very broad question. I don't know if you've spliced.
No, I totally agree. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with your ideal employee avatar is you have an ideal client avatar as well. And I think a lot of those marketing methods you just brought up speak more directly to your ideal client, right? If I'm always just dumping money into paid leads and I'm on the Angies and the Home Advisors and the Yelps and I'm offering discounts and I'm attracting a certain type of client and they're going to bail for the next big sale, right? Or the next big discount. Whereas if we're doing relationship marketing, right, it's the difference between transactional marketing and relationship marketing. And so if we're building that relationship, we're speaking to our ideal client avatar who's willing to not only pay a higher rate, but also they want a relationship and they want someone they can count on and depend on. They don't want to be out shopping for cleaners. They're not looking for a deal.
This is a separate topic, but it's really a difference in work culture. I thought I'd mention it just as an interesting side note. As Americans, we're very focused on the hustle part of business, right? It's a big part of our culture, which I think is unconscious sometimes. But for us, one of the metrics we often care about as owners is like how long until someone picks up the phone for your company, right? Like how long until your VA picks up a call or calls a customer back. You need to call in 5 minutes to get that lead booked, right? These statistics matter. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but I just wanted to mention it for viewers. In Europe, it's completely the opposite. It's a much more laid back way of doing business. And so it's actually hard to find a cleaner or a plumber or an electrician, not because they don't exist, but because you can't get anyone to answer the phone on time. They don't want to do it. It's just making me think about the different ways that we approach business. So this is nothing to do with the conversation, but wanted to mention it for people at interest.
It is interesting. I mean, we just saw a presentation. I can't remember his name. The guy from So Tell Us was at our event last week talking about his whole presentation was speed to lead. And, here in the States, if I'm looking for a plumber or whatever, I'm going on Google. And if you don't answer your phone, it's next man up.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you call me back in 30 minutes, you're way too late. I'm booked. I booked it.
Yeah, that lead is gone forever. They might laugh at you, but yeah, very cool. I have kind of a big question I wanted to end with. There are a lot, it's not spoken about a lot, but there are a lot of fellow business owners, specifically in the cleaning space too, who are also dealing with a lot of personal issues, health or otherwise. So I wanted to see if you could close by giving some advice to viewers and to other cleaning business owners. If you were to look back at your journey, is there any advice that you want to give to individuals who might be facing a similar challenge in their business and their personal lives on how they could navigate that successfully?
Oh, well.
There you go.
Well, I think that as entrepreneurs, again, we put the business first, and that's what we did. And I don't want people to have a diagnosis for them to put themselves first. Self-care needs to come first. You can't fill other people's cup if you're running on empty. And I think that as business owners, we put the business first, everybody else first. But again, you're going to run on empty and you're not going to have any more to give. So I, through our journey, we really learned the importance of self-love, self-care, and that's where it begins.
I would agree with that, right? You got to put your oxygen mask on first. And then as far as tactical, and I spoke a bit about this last week, is compartmentalize, right? Chunk everything down. I call it chop wood, carry water, which you're probably familiar with, I would guess, which means that the only thing there is to be done is what needs to be done. And some days that might mean, look, man, I got to get in the shower. I got to take a shower.
Right. That's what we're doing too.
And nothing matters after that, yeah. Right? And then when you're in the shower, it's, I got to get some breakfast. I have to have some fuel. We're always conditioned to be thinking about 15 things down the road. Oh, I've got this tomorrow, and then I've got this on Thursday, and I got to do this. And oh, my tech quit. I got to do this. Just, if you're in a crisis, slow it down. Just, it literally, it's one step. What do I have to do right now? What is the thing I have to do right now? And then if you have the mental capacity for it and the skill set, create a system when you do it. Now I have a 3-strike rule, which means if I do something one time and I think, man, this sucks, I don't want to do this again. The second time I do it, I'm writing it down and I'm creating a video tutorial to do it. And there will not be a third time I'm doing it. And so if you can kind of get in that space of just, what do I need to do right? What's the one thing? And then just go from there.
That's very good advice, actually. Being in the moment, yeah, very zen. I agree. That's a very good mindset to take in these types of situations. Eric, you're a cleaning business fundamentals coach, and we have an existing relationship, so we talk about certain topics for business. But I'm really curious, a student who comes to you for coaching, what do those sessions look like, and what do you tell them to focus on? And what I'm thinking here is, we've talked a lot about the bigger things that are more important in life than perhaps a number. But I also know that you're a numbers guy. You're very much a KPIs guy as well. So I'm really curious, when you're coaching someone, how do those sessions typically play out?
You're going to tell me what we're talking about. And ultimately, my goal is, like, I'm not a consultant, right? I'm a coach. And so first and foremost, I'm within the CBF community. And so my job is to coach you through where you may be stuck in the CBF model. Now, that being said, my ultimate goal is to give you the skill set and to teach you how to solve your own problem. And so, and there's a number of different reasons for that, right? One, you're most likely trying to scale and grow your business. And so I can't be solving everything for you and giving you, oh, just do this or just do that, right? I have to teach you that skill set, but also lead you to that aha moment where you get there yourself. Then you're going to have more buy-in, for one thing. And so really, it's kind of what we just talked about, is what's the one thing right now? What's the challenge you're facing right now that if we were to overcome that and put a system in place that would help move you towards your goal?
Got it. Okay.
And, that's one of the things that's really been interesting to me in that process, is how many business owners don't have a goal, a specific goal.
Yes.
Right. And I talk about that a lot, man. It's really hard to get where you're going if you don't even know where you're going or why you're going there in the first place.
No kidding. Oh, I find the same thing. They might have a vague goal, or they might have a number goal, but they're not, you got to pin them down, you got to pin them down and make a pathway. I think that's everything. We covered a lot in an hour.
We did.
Good.
So what I'm going to do, we're going to wrap up here, everyone. I'm going to link Rise and Shine Cleaning in the show notes. Eric, Debbie, is there any other profiles that you'd like me to link to for everyone so they can reach out to you if they'd want to connect with you directly?
Well, I think if you're interested in a natural healing journey, then you've got to check out @PureFoodieGal on Instagram.
That's my new company.
So you got to give that a look on the gram. And then, you could check out my page at debbiesardone.com /Coach Eric.
Very cool. And Debbie, congratulations on the new company. That's great.
Thank you. We had a blast. Thank you so much for having us on your podcast.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.